Do you know what the First Amendment does? It protects our rights of free speech in the United States. Do you think some people take this too far or abuse these rights? Many of you don't recognize the fact that people abuse these rights daily, and it's important for me to show you today how they do. In the past few years, I've seen funeral protests be highly controversial topics on the news, and it's something that really caught my attention. I believe it is important to be aware of. I hope that knowing about these protests will make you feel compelled to take a deeper look into this rapid growing problem of abusing our right to free speech with complete disrespect and disregard for people who are grieving. Today I will talk about some details on the funeral protesting in general, some of the laws both for and most importantly against these protests, and an overview of one of the biggest current hate groups in America. Protesting is a very old form of publicly expressing one's beliefs toward a particular subject. People protest for numerous amounts of reasons and causes at various public places. Many times, protests are in the form of rallies. Recently, funerals have been large hotspots for these expressions of freedom of speech. They have protested the funerals of military personnel killed in our current war, people who are killed violently, homosexuals, and public figures, and Matthew Shepard, who was notoriously beaten and killed for being a homosexual. Despite the fact that many states have tried to pass laws attempting to lessen the impact of these disrespectful acts, the United States Supreme Court has the final say. According to the Amendment Center website, there are more than 40 states that have passed laws that are at least limit protest at funerals, as well as the United States Congress. Usually, when someone is arrested for protesting at a funeral, they are charged with disorderly conduct. Whereas some laws prohibit from strictly military funerals, others are all funerals in general. Some examples of these laws that I also found on the website. The Oklahoma Funeral Picketing Act blocks protests in military personnel funerals. Some of the stipulations are that you cannot picket from 1 hour before to 2 hours after the funeral. You must also be at least 300 feet away from the location of the funeral service, as well as the procession or burial. In Illinois, there is a law that says you cannot be within 200 feet of any ingress or egress of a funeral site. They also do prohibit displaying any visual images that convey fighting words or actually threats against another person. In an article on Times Union published on April 7th of 2011, Rensselaer County in New York submitted a local law that states protests are prohibited to be within 750 feet of a funeral 1 hour before or after the event. If you do violate this, you will face a misdemeanor charge as well as up to 1 year in jail. Where some laws tend to favor of prosecuting people who protest funerals, others seem to be allowing it by saying what they're doing is not punishable. In an analysis on the First Amendment Center by Ronald Collins and David Hudson Jr., they tell of an act proposed by the House in 2006 called the Respect for Americans Fallen Heroes Act of 2006. It prohibits picketing at cemeteries under control of the National Cemetery Administration and Arlington National Cemetery. An article on the National Public Radio website was based on the latest law enabling these ridiculous protesters. As of March 2, 2011, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of protesters at military funerals. Under this ruling, protesters cannot be sued for infliction of emotional distress toward the family of a dead soldier. Personally, I don't understand this. How can these people not be held accountable for their emotional distress that they cause when they spew hateful things and hold up signs saying God loves dead soldiers, thanks God for September 11th, pray for more dead soldiers? The reason we have the problem with the funeral protest is because our higher-ups keep allowing this to happen. So in my eyes, they are basically telling us that while physical abuse could result in punishment, emotional abuse is okay. Now I'm going to show you some pictures of these signs. Here's another one. There have been many hate groups throughout time that have protested at funerals. Now we will examine one group that has sparked more recent laws regarding the growing problem, the Westboro Baptist Church. The Westboro Baptist style of protesting to me is absolutely unbelievable and incredibly disgusting. Founded in 1995, the Westboro Baptist Church gained notoriety because of their complete lack of respect for families and one of the lowest points in their lives by protesting funerals. I read an article called A Peek Inside the Westboro Baptist Church that Shirley Phelps Roper, the wife of Fred Phelps, which is the leader, she states that her and other members of the church want God to punish Americans for tolerating homosexuality. She also mentions that the reason that they do not protest at these funerals is to make people angry. So angry that they reject God and are condemned to hell. I would have to agree that they definitely make people angry, including me. I can hardly stand reading anything about these people. It angers me that there are people in this day that are still so ignorant. They follow the Bible and preach against all forms of sins. Taken straight from their website, they state, "Our church engages in daily peaceful sidewalk demonstrations opposing the homosexuality lifestyle of soul-damning, nation-destroying filth. We display large, colorful signs containing Bible words and sentiments, including 'God hates fags,' 'Fags hate God,' 'God is not mocked,' 'No special law for fags,' which I showed you before. I'm not incredibly sure how they can say they perform peaceful demonstrations while at the same time calling homosexuals soul-damning, nation-destroying filth. Hate, which is their biggest message they preach, is the opposite of peace." Westboro Baptists have protested 45,000 funerals since June of 1991. On multiple accounts, they have been sued for emotional distress, sparking the most recent laws and ruling. I think that this is absolutely ridiculous. Funerals are a time for families as well as friends to grieve their losses, not for others to voice their personal opinions, especially being hateful ones. While I do agree to an extent that the right to freedom of speech should be respected, I don't think that such hateful things are needed to be voiced so publicly and at such a disrespectful place. My hopes today are that becoming more aware of this growing trend in funeral protest and seeing the pictures of the hateful messages these people spread, that even if you are against things such as gay rights, war, you will at least understand that there should be a level of respect and decency for those who are grieving. In conclusion, while I understand the First Amendment protects our right to free speech, I think that allowing people to protest funerals is definitely abusing our rights by being so incredibly disrespectful. There are certain lines that are not to be crossed. As human beings, we should be compassionate for others. Most likely, all of you watching this have lost somebody close to them. If you consider protesting anything with hateful messages such as these, I ask please put yourself and those who are protesting against shoes.